Hey, what's up? This is Ian, and we're standing on a river. It's called Connecticut River, and on the other side, the land on the other side there is Vermont, and I'm standing in New Hampshire. This bridge I've jumped off at least 3 times. It's roughly, uh, it's at least 30 feet, maybe 40 feet. Anyways, in this video, I'm going to talk about reasons why people quit teaching English abroad. So, first off, you should know that most people only teach abroad for a year or two. Here's my list. It's a little messy, but we're going to go with it. So, yeah, most people only teach abroad for a year or two, and yeah, I'd say roughly 70% of people are like that. It's an industry with a lot of turnover. Maybe as little as 10% will do it for 10 years or more, and then maybe another 10% or so will last 5 years or more. So yeah, that's I think that's the reality of it. It's a short-term gig for most people. Anyways, reason number one, it's not what they expected. So whatever it is they have, sometimes I'm going to say you, maybe it's not you, but I'm just talking, right? Maybe you had in your head that, okay, I like this, you got really interested in some aspect of something. Maybe it was K-pop or manga or anime or maybe some aspect of the culture, but when you're looking online is like, you're just getting a little sliver of information. So it's just a little tiny piece of the pie, and then you get abroad and you actually start doing it. There's so much more to it than whatever got you there, So expectations. Number two. Now some of these, I'm not sure what I've got 7 reasons at the moment. However, a few of these have some sort of subsets, and it could turn out to be like 20 reasons why people quit teaching English abroad. Okay, number 2, everything is different. Okay, the culture is different, the language is different, the environment is different, the food is different, the weather is different, a lot of things are different. So your job is different, right? So culture is something subtle. You can't quite understand what it is until a little noisy. I'm right by the road here. Until you're in it, or until you're out of it. Like you're in a certain culture right now, you don't see it because it's normal to you. But if you let's say you live in a big city, you have different neighborhoods in your city. At one time I lived in San Francisco, for example, and you have Chinatown. So if you want to get a taste of what Chinese culture is like in Chinatown, you could go, or what China's like, you could go to Chinatown and maybe get a little taste of it, what it's like. Or you want to understand what African American culture is like, you can go to the Tenderloin, hang out there. Or Japantown, if you want to get a taste of what Japan is like, you can go there. Or maybe the Mission District to get a taste of Hispanic culture. But this is a whole different game though. Like USA is kind of, what do they call it? Some people call it mixed salad. Some people call it a melting pot. It's totally different. Your idea, you're just getting a little sliver of information. So don't assume that China's going to be like Chinatown, or Chinese food is going to be like the food that you always eat when you go to a Chinese restaurant. You're just getting a little sliver of information, right? That's culture. Language, that's a whole nother thing. You're going to have problems with language. That's just, that will happen. So, yeah, at the end of this video, let's just remind you, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you some solutions on how to deal with some of these problems too, okay? Weather, if you're used to, say you grew up in Florida, so you're used to that kind of weather, and then you happen to go teach English in Russia, and then it's going to be super cold, and you might not be able to adapt, or you might not like that, So weather's a factor. Environment, If you grew up in the countryside and you go live in a really big city with millions of people in China, and that might get to you, the crowds and the pollution and the noise and all the people. It's gonna get to you at some point, I think. Food, if you know you're used to eating what you eat now, like this is like, um, yeah, it's when you take something away and then you're presented with something new, like you may think, oh, I like Chinese food or I like Korean food. But when you go to the culture there and you live there, you don't have all the options you have now. You won't have them. And you're going to be maybe eating that food every day. Of course, you could cook your own food, but, you know, that's what you're going to be surrounded with. Everything's going to be limited as far as food options go. No matter where you are, even in the biggest cities, it's still limited. You live in Tokyo or you live in Shanghai or Seoul, wherever, you get more diversity as far as things go, but you're still in a foreign country. It's a different deal. Your job is different. Okay, which leads us to number 3. I think this is maybe the biggest factor why people quit teaching English abroad. And that's that they're not teachers or they're not interested in teaching. So people, and this is, I think, the majority, maybe partially explains the whole industry of turnover and why people teach English abroad. It was the same for me too. I wanted to travel. I love traveling. At that point, before I got into teaching abroad, I went all over Europe, been all over North America, and I was like, so Asia, I want to check out Asia, and like, all these sites, these T4 course sites, they show pictures of beautiful beaches in Asia, beautiful places, ancient architecture and whatnot. But here's the thing, like, teaching, you got to look at it. It's not the abroad. You're not going on a vacation abroad. You're going to work abroad, and you're going to teach. You're going to be a teacher. You got to have a classroom of students. You have certain responsibility. Teaching is not easy, okay? It's difficult. Well, I think for a lot of you, it's going to be that way. It was for me. Maybe you're a natural teacher, but like I said, not everybody's interested in teaching. Solution, I'll tell you later. So that's why they just don't. Why? Yeah, blah blah. I'm going on here. 4. Another reason why people quit teaching English abroad is because they have problems with their employers. Maybe they didn't pay them on time, or maybe there's cultural differences. Probably always going to be some sort of language difficulties, or you're getting like, they're going to have someone that can speak English, but your boss might not speak any English or very poor English, and so you're getting trickle-down information, and they have their own cultural ways and expectations too. So, yeah. So problems with employers, you might not get paid on time, or you might not get paid in full, or there might be some weird stuff, deceptive stuff going on there. All that stuff can happen. Disagreements about the contract or whatever, all those things can happen. Solution towards the end of this, all right? So number 5, another reason I read like other people say this, they say, no, these are quotation marks, no career progression. Okay, look, most people who want to be a teacher, they want to be a teacher, They're not thinking of it as like, oh, I'm going to climb the corporate ladder of being a teacher, because there really isn't one, You teach because you want to teach or you like to teach, not because you want to climb some ladder. Now, that's not to say that if you're into that sort of thing, like, it's not to say there aren't like higher positions. Maybe you can be a head teacher in a school. Depends a lot on the school and where you are. Maybe you can become a manager in a school if you want. But here's the thing. The number one reason that there's no career progression is you're in a foreign country. You don't speak the language. You probably don't speak the language. You're probably not fluent in it. And you don't have another visa. So the kinds of jobs that you can do are very limited, okay? Very limited. So career progression. So I would not go into this assuming, okay, well maybe I'll just start off teaching English and then I can get another job. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's would be very difficult to do without the capability of speaking a foreign language, and then you get a visa problem. So they don't just like hand out visas for people to live there for no reason. So yeah, so some people quit because they think that they can't make any progress in their career. But my mindset on that is you shouldn't, like, what you want to, that's like kind of like the rat race to me. Like, you should find something you want to do and focus on that instead of like trying to increase your status. Like, oh, like, you should focus on something you like to do. Number 6, they want to do something else. So another reason why people quit teaching abroad is maybe in the beginning they were only planning on doing it for a year or two. Maybe they want to go after they taught abroad. Maybe they want to go do woofing or something like that, or be a volunteer, or maybe they want to go back to university. Maybe they yada yada yada. There's many things that they might want to do. They might have only thought about doing it for a year or so. Okay, and number 7. Now, maybe you won't have any problems with any of the things I just mentioned. Maybe you'll love the culture, you'll learn the language, you'll like teaching. What are some of these things that I mentioned? You won't have any problems with employers, all that. Everything's good. But maybe after a certain point, you're going to start missing home. You're going to start missing your friends. Maybe you're going to miss the environment, the place where you grew up, or the culture where you grew up. You're going to get homesick, And it may not happen right away. It may take more than a year. It may take 2, 3, 4 or more years. It's possible, though. Okay, so those are my reasons why most people quit teaching English abroad. Now, I'll put some links down below for things get more related information on, and solutions. Now I'm going to talk about some of the solutions to some of the problems. One solution, it kind of covers a lot of things, is they don't do enough research. They don't, but you got to do your research. You got to like look into it. Like maybe they go to Korea, they just like, so wow, K-pop's awesome. I can make money in Korea. I can save money in Korea. It sounds great. I'm going. They don't do much research, and they find out it's not what they expected. It's not, the money's not that good, or it's just not that satisfying. It's the truth of the matter is that no matter how much money doesn't guarantee success or happiness. So do your research into the culture, into the language, which would be number 2, is to really study. Waiting for that car to go by. Really study the language. Okay, this is going to make a difference. You don't need to know the language to teach English, but outside of the classroom, it's going to make a big difference. Okay, you won't be living in a bubble. You can get by in a foreign country just knowing English, but you're not going to feel any more connected because of it. You're going to be in a bubble, So study the culture, study the language, and you're going to be get more accustomed to the culture, be able to deal with it. If you get a problem, you want a relationship or anything, it's just going to help, like, make a difference. Okay, teaching. Here's the thing. Most of you aren't teachers. Most of you thinking about teaching abroad, you're not a natural teacher, or you're not planning on teaching for Korea. But here's the thing. I would invest early on in learning how to teach. You can take different courses, you can read books, you can watch videos, and I recommend you to do it early on within your first year. Don't assume that teaching English is going to be easy. Like, oh, I speak English, no problem. No, it's not. It's not easy at all. I thought it was very difficult for me, and it took a long time. I started in 2004 in Taiwan, and it was a good year and a half before I started to get a little bit confident on how to do that. So I would invest in some training. Everybody can learn. There's skills that you can learn. Yes, not all of you are a natural teacher or want to teach, but it's going to make your life better because you're going to be spending a large chunk of your time in a classroom. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have a lot of stress, and it's not going to be very satisfying. It's always good to be learning something while you're doing it too, you know? So invest if you want a better experience, you know? Another thing, homesickness, like some things you can't, like you're just homesick, but you can develop a community there, you know, like you can work on having friends. You can have that, go to class, language to study Japanese, say you're living in Japan, you take Japanese classes. You gotta find communities, you know, hang out, take martial arts classes, dance classes, whatever your thing is, try to find groups around it, you know, and you got to get kind of, ultimately it's better, like you can hang out with just foreigners, and there's always foreign communities abroad, or you can go to bars and stuff like that, but there's limitations to that, and yeah, I'd seek the more well-rounded kind of you know, hang out with foreigners and the locals, and I think that's a little more balance for you. So anyways, so I think that was roughly 7 reasons why people quit teaching English abroad. And if you want to know more, learn more, check the description below. There'll be some links in that. All right. So this is Ian saying so long. I'm holding now 2 fingers up. Can you guess what fingers they are? Anyways, have a good one.